would you like to inspire loyalty with your leadership? Take the Caring Leadership Self-Assessment today and discover what actions you can take to uplift your team and your organisation. Created in conjunction with Heather's best-selling book, The Art of Caring Leadership, the Caring Leadership Self-Assessment is designed to help you identify key areas for growth so you can become known as a leader with heart. Once you've completed your self-assessment, you'll instantly receive a report highlighting key areas in which you can improve. And you'll also have the opportunity to upgrade to more detailed reports, including one that helps you benchmark how you stack up against peers in your field. And it will also provide you with additional insights as well as recommended next steps for your journey as a caring leader. Simply visit caringleadership.co and click Self-Assessment to begin your caring leadership journey today.
Hi, everybody. It's Heather. Welcome to the Leadership Heart podcast. I'm so excited today to have JC Hite on the show with me. He is someone who was actually referred to me, and I've been getting more and more referrals that I accept, because often I was getting tons and tons of pitches for people. And I'm like, nope, not a fit. And I get that a lot. Occasionally I see someone come across my desk and I go, kind of interesting, a little unique, not like people I've spoken to before. And so it's the same for JC here. I'm excited for you to learn more about him as a leader and just as a world changer, to be honest. So welcome, JC.
I appreciate it, Heather. I'm super excited to be on here today. Thanks for having me. Absolutely.
So tell everybody where you are in your leadership journey anyway.
Yeah, I'm very lost in my leadership. I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but we're growing like crazy. We've got 180 team members. And it's so funny as you grow, you have 10 people and then all of a sudden 20, 30, 40, 50. And I don't feel like we ever really know what we're doing. It's so different, especially the way we lead. We really dig into our people and our team, and that's getting harder as we get older. I'm used to knowing their kids' names. I'm used to knowing, their marriages, who they're dating. I'm used to going out on double dates with my team members. And now we saw someone in the office the other day and I was like, I have no idea what her name is. I don't even know. And so it's been an incredible journey for sure.
That's awesome. So tell everybody what you do. I'd love to hear, tell them kind of the depth and breadth of all of it, right? As we think about the international presence and the U.S. presence.
Yeah. So I found myself, this was 10 years ago in Latin America. I met my wife in college, a beautiful woman, and she just took me to Central America, and it was crazy, and ended up working with a big, bought into a Inc. 500 agency. We were growing like crazy. It was amazing. It was incredible. But to be honest with you, our values didn't align as a part of like the ownership team. And so 3 months before I was about to have my daughter, my wife and I decided to exit the company. And when we exited, we had two options, two ideas. Number one was retire, go live on the beach, maybe do some consulting work and relax. Or two, let's create another company. Let's do this again. And to be honest with you, I was really pushing to the beach life, like going surfing every day. During this time, we were stationed in Nicaragua, and Nicaragua's had a lot of struggles over the years. I mean, it's amazing how, in the States, we just don't realize how close people are that are struggling. And in these third world countries, the biggest thing is stability, and that crushed my wife and I. What would it look like for a mom and dad to not be able to afford, to get their kids ice cream or to send their kids to a great school or to so on and so forth. And so we decided to kind of, okay, well, let's think about creating a company. Like, what would it look like for us to create another agency that sole purpose was to create stability in Latin America and that we could change the landscape? And I'm super pumped. We got about 150 team members in our Nicaraguan office. We got a beautiful office. Every single kid is on scholarship. So in fact, we have people in our very low level jobs, that make like $700 a month, which is a decent salary there, that have 3 kids, that we pay more in kids reimbursement than they do at their actual job, which is kind of ridiculous. Right. And so every kid's on scholarship. We do amazing events. And it's amazing because we're actually making money. We're actually driving forward. The funny thing is, the more you care about people in your team and get invested in them, they actually perform better. They actually stay around. They actually,
novel concept, right?
And so, and so I'm not smart enough to build these company on my own. So we got to have really good people, treat them stupid well, and be able to grow. And so this has just been an incredible journey for me because I really depend on people like you, Heather, that have this mission of helping leaders come to light and bringing on people on your show where we can learn from each other and grow, because these are just new dynamics, right? Like it's very intriguing to me. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. And there's more, it's more to it. So you have the international side and go a little deeper because it's a curious, thing for me.
So we're in the digital marketing world, and to say, kind of to bring it to light, what we accomplished here. So we're the first digital marketing agency to franchise digital marketing in the US, and franchising is heavily regulated. It's very complex, and we finally legalized. It was 11 months ago. We're actually I don't know where we are. We'll end up being on the list, but we're one of the fast growing franchises. And really what we did there was in the marketing world, you kind of have two agencies that you end up hiring. One is your boutique agency. It's right there beside you. A great service. You have the owner typically on cell phone dial. It's amazing. Amazing customer service, but they don't have access to Google. They don't have a huge team. They've got a lot of, maybe a few individuals doing a lot of different things, right? And so normally you don't get the quality of product that you would like to. And then the flip side is you have these huge conglomerates that have every resource in the world. They have QA, they have product, they have an innovation department, they have, Google on speed dial, Facebook on speed dial. But you're dealing with employee number 87, who, let's face it, just got out of college and is looking for the next role, And so in the franchise world, one of the nice things about franchising, and when we think of franchising, we think of like McDonald's, and think of like Keller Williams or Shelter Insurance and these other, big companies. But the biggest reason behind those franchising, why Keller Williams franchises, because they get the best of both worlds. On one side, they have all this leverage, very large teams, QA, innovation, all this stuff, but we have local people around the US, around the world now starting, that can serve you at a local level, because it's different serving someone in Miami that has this Latin vibe to it than New York, than Texas, than California, right? And so you have to be able to speak to those clients and to their story and to your clients' clients in a very unique way. And I think that's a big part of why we're growing. So on one side, we have this huge social impact goal. And when I'm speaking to people like you, those are really fun and interesting to talk to, and probably my favorite. And on the other side, we have this like capitalistic, we have a business that's growing. We're projected to hit a $500 million valuation over the next 4 years. Like, we're really trying to push and to grow. And we're doing both of these at the same time. My vision is we have one of the fastest growing companies in the US that's growing like crazy, that is completely powered by a third world country. And like, this is incredible. And so then what kind of confidence does that give us? And empowerment does that give us across the world in countries that really need it? Right.
Very interesting. I love that so much. I'm curious to know those 180 people that indirectly report up to you. What would they say about your leadership style? How would they define you as a leader?
Oh my gosh, that would be a fun question to ask them. I think most of them would say, I think the reason we've won is because we care like crazy about our people. Right. I had someone just the other day ask me, like, JC, like, how do I show my team I care? Like, you don't show them, you just actually care about them, right? Like there's a difference. And to be honest with you, this is the thing that I struggle with the most now, right? Because as I mentioned, we have a daycare, literally the daycare in our office is like across, like my door and the daycare door is side by side. Like, it's very common for the babies to run into my office because I have a TV in my office and they know they can turn on Netflix, right? And so like this whole dynamic, my best friends are at our office, it's very incredible. I think this is where I struggle, because as you scale, that becomes more and more complex, right? And so I'll give you an example. I'm a big proponent of marriage, and we do a lot of things about marriage and about family in our offices, and how can we empower people to be better spouses and better dads and better moms. And we incorporate this a lot in our office. And so therefore, like, we end up having a lot of private conversations about, hey, my marriage is doing this. What do you think? All this stuff. And those aren't one-time conversations. Those are 6 conversations back to back. And they're incredibly important. And I never want to say no to those. But as we grow, and now we have 150 people, it's very complex and very stressful. And so I'm super excited about this. We actually just announced last week that we actually have a family a marriage and family minister position open as like basically a chaplain within our organization. And so it's exciting. It's fun. It's fun. I think they would definitely say that I care a lot. They would say I'm a big dreamer. I'm not detail oriented at all. They would say they would honestly say he has no idea what he's doing most of the time.
Sounds like me.
And that's actually like a whole leadership thing I learned. So I actually hired a leadership coach. This was in our first year of business, and I hired him as personal. And I quickly found out that one of the biggest opportunities for us is how do we develop leaders? And so I actually ended up offering my coach. He was basically full-time. He worked with billionaires, YPO, ex-presidents, like very high level. And we ended up actually offering him a full-time job at Hite, and he's been working there ever since. And one of the things that we learned very quickly is that we turned our language at Hite from decisions to experiments, right? So like as a leader, we have a lot of ego in our leadership typically, right? That's how we're successful, is we have the ego to go out and, create something, right? And our ego sometimes gets in our way because we're like, hey, guys, we're going to change the salary, or hey, guys, we're going to do this at the company, or hey, guys, we're going to do this. And it doesn't open the door for us to be wrong, right? Or change it or switch it a lot of times. And so our language within Hite is experiments. We want to create experiments. So here's a new experiment team. So that now tells the team like, okay, this may change. This may not work. It may not. And it also creates the path for me to go, this failed. I screwed up. Let's switch it back, right? Because it's an experiment. It's not a decision. And then number two, we only create safe to fail experiments, right? So if this fails, is that okay? Are we good with that, right? And so all of these things, so they would definitely talk about, we just create a bunch of experiments. We have no idea what we're doing. And no one's done this before, what we're trying to do in a lot of ways. And so there's no book. I wish there was a book on it. Make it a lot easier, right?
Yeah, a book would make lots of things easier. I would say it's so funny. So this idea of when we think of carrying leadership, I put together the Art of Caring Leadership book because everybody would say, oh, they care. They don't care. What does care mean? How do you show care? And so after interviewing, the majority of the research came from my interviews on this podcast, interviewing people from all different industries, all different walks, and starting to see common themes and boiling up those themes, and then taking that and reconciling it with the almost 30,000 employee engagement survey comments that I read over the years to say, wow, like what do employees want? What are they saying their leaders aren't doing? And what are leaders who are doing it well doing? And what are they failing to do based upon their own mission? And when you look at all of that, what does care actually look like? So to put it in that side of the book, the 9 behaviors that really represent care, it actually is the demonstration of care. But you're right, as a foundation, with all of this stuff you just said, if you don't care, like meaning from the heart, like humans aren't important to you.
Yeah.
Relationships aren't important to you.
Yeah.
Well, then care will never be possible.
Yeah.
The demonstration of true care won't be possible because you don't have, even as your North Star, relationships, relational connection. And so it's funny that you said that. Just like, no matter what, like I might not know what the heck I'm doing, but I care about people. And that is, I think that goes really, really far.
Yeah.
Really far.
I've almost come to the conclusion that it almost doesn't matter your leadership style as long as you're finding a tribe that matches that, right? So like I have friends that are all about money. I mean, they just want to make money. That's all they care about. Cool. You just need to hire people that's what they care about, so that you're speaking the same language, so that you have the same goals, so that you're very, aligned, right? For me, if you work for me and all you care about is money, like you're not going to have fun, because we quote to them, we waste a lot of money on things that, just don't have anything to do with our bottom line. Right. And so you just got to find your tribe. For us, man, if you gossip at Hite, you're going to not have a job very, very quickly. We just don't do drama at our organization. We don't even do, and this is I don't know if you're a fan of Dave Ramsey. You know Dave Ramsey?
I know him.
All right. So he sponsors us here at Hite, and people love him. People hate him, but he's even got some crazy rules himself. Like if you cheat on a spouse, if you have an affair, you can't work at Dave Ramsey. Right. And so there's some really interesting, but I like the idea of really aligning values. That doesn't mean you have to agree. You just have to have respect, right?
Yes.
For those values. Right?
I love that. And it's so interesting that you say that, because I think about, haven't been many times where I've had to really help somebody course correct or really call somebody on the carpet because their values weren't in alignment, but because I'm like you, I have real strong personal values that then translate into the team, and I make the team that I'm leading be very clear about what those values are, and they can add more values to that bucket. But the foundational values are what they are. And so there's the times where I have felt more comfortable saying to someone like, nope, this was not the way we're going. Nope, your behavior was not. It's because they were not in line with the personal values that I espoused, that I'd already communicated, the team I thought bought into, like they're communicated all the time. And it's obvious that I hold them to heart. But the times where I can think of where I was like, I might be the person who talks about caring leadership and leading with heart and all this stuff that people may think of as soft. But when I need to clarify something, or I need to say, sorry, that's not in line with the values, I have not a problem doing that not in a disrespectful way, not in a way that makes people feel small, but still they're real clear about where I stand.
Yeah. Well, this ties into something we do at Hite. Actually, when you become a team member at Hite, we literally have an entire day training on just one concept, one methodology that we teach. And it has to do with values, but we push that further. Of course, we all have goals in life. And I think goals are great. Goals are exciting. I set annual goals every year. I set monthly goals, all this wonderful stuff. But goals in the premise, especially nowadays, is I can hit it or I might not, right? Like it's a chance, right? We actually changed this out. And actually, I think I'm even wearing a shirt right now that says committed. How do we create commitments in our life? Commitments, right? Like, so a commitment is like, I'm going to hit this. Like I have to hit it, right? Like it's a do or die situation. I'll give you a quick example. You have kids, Heather?
Yes, 4.
4 kids. All right. If I asked you tomorrow, Heather, would you go work at McDonald's? I got a job opening at McDonald's. Would you go work there? Probably not.
I'd have no need to. Yeah.
Yeah, no desire. You wouldn't do it, right? It just doesn't make sense. But if your kids were hungry, would you go work at McDonald's?
Well, of course. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Your commitment to your children outweighs any pride, any self-doubt, any laziness, right? Any it doesn't matter. There is nothing going to step in your way from your commitment to your children, right? And so the same way in life, if we can find out what we're committed to. So for me, I'm committed to changing Nicaragua for the good. I'm committed to creating stability in a very unstable world. And I'm willing to die for it to an extent, right? I'm willing to sacrifice anything up to my family and my faith to make this happen. And so when we figure out what people are committed to, that becomes our driver, right? Like JC, what the junk? You get up super early in the morning, like, yeah, dude, I've got a war to win. Like I am going out here. Hey, JC, like you're doing this stuff. Like it has nothing. I'm a lazy by nature, personally. Like me, I am very lazy. I was a 2.0 GPA in school. But you have this thing that starts in your purpose or your why. We then switch that into a statement like, I am the commitment to X, Y, and Z, right? And a commitment is got to be noteworthy. It's got to be worth fighting for. And so we do 2 things at Hite. Number 1, you have to be a part of our commitment, right? Like if you're not interested in changing Nicaragua and helping people grow and scale, if you're not interested in being part of our mission, what we do won't make sense, right? Nope. Like I give the example, and it is a right. Like I get it. I mentioned that we have scholarships for all of our people, right? And people on one side of the government scale would think like, that's amazing. That's so great. That's social, social impact. And you probably someone on the far right side would be like, that's stupid, right? Like so you're telling me you have guys just because they're single and they don't have kids, they make $800, but because this woman or man has 4 kids, he makes $1,700. Like, how is that fair? That's not fair. They're both doing the same job. And I'm like, I get it. I was born in the South, raised Republican. Like, I understand what you're saying, but this is like, and so what are we? So you got to be committed to what we're committed to, which is change. And we believe education is a huge part of that, or else it just doesn't make sense. And I get the argument, 100% get the argument, right? On both sides. And so we figure out number 1, this is our commitment. And can you be a part of that? You don't have to agree with it, but you have to be a part of it. And number 2, what are you committed to? And so we get the declaration of everyone in our organization. What are they really committed to? And when you start really digging into this, right? Most of us will have a very surface level commitment, like, my kids or whatever, but it's got to be even deeper than that. It's got to be deeper than your children even, because well, to be honest with you, you may lose your children, right? Like it happens. And it's got to be at a deep level. And it's really exciting when you start finding out what people are truly committed to in life. And if you can help them then fulfill that at scale. And a lot of times when you're hiring the same people with values, a lot of times their commitments cross paths. Then you get incredible. we've been in business. We're about to turn 4 years old next week. And we have never had a manager, director, coordinator, or VP leave our company. So we've never had someone in leadership leave our company. And I believe it's because we care about our people. We care about what they want to do, how they're driven. And then and this is selfish, they then care about us, right? And our company and what we're doing and how we're creating a better world. The big thing for us is, what are you committed to? Like, what are you truly willing to fight for? And if we can find we can drive people.
Well, I was talking to you earlier before we started recording about Daniel McCollum, and one of my favorite leaders, and you have a lot in common. And he talks about this idea of helping people, breathing a mission into your people, particularly those who don't feel like they have their own mission, they don't have a vision of themselves, and so it's very similar. And I believe that I always talk about, when we talk about resilience building, for example, if you don't have this mission that's bigger than you, it's the same vernacular, same kind of thinking as this commitment idea. If you don't have a mission that's bigger than you, bigger than anything that you're facing, then it's hard for you to keep going, to move all the other things away. And so it's just funny, the different way of saying it, but really speaking the same language. So I can appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I love it.
I'm curious to know, because this is the interesting part of the show, where I want you to tell me about a time when you were not, in your mind, the best leader you could be. You were not the leader with heart. What specifically, in story format, if you could, what did that look like? And then what did you do to come out of it?
I'll tell you a very interesting story. I love the psychology of things nowadays. I used to hate that. Raised by a single mom, we had drugs in my house. It was just craziness. And I hated psychology because it would have put me in he's going to fail. Right. And so I always had a problem with it. And as I've gotten older, I've really enjoyed the psychology of people and how do we help impact, through our words and actions. And so I'll tell you a story that I messed up on. And my coach, actually, was so funny. My coach, who we have full-time in the office, of course, is amazing because he sees everything. It's not just a 1 hour coaching call once a week where I'm telling him what I want to hear. He's like, yeah, I talked to the 10 people under you and you're screwing up, and it's much more, anyways, it's
a lot of accountability. That's good.
Yeah. So we had a team member and I can tell the story. I've gotten his permission to use it. And this happened about 6 months ago. It's actually a newer story. Employee number 3 or 4 or 2 in our organization. We won't name him by name, but amazing team member. This team member was one of those team members in the office that, because he was original, he was just part of the family. He was a jokester. He was the guy that posted pictures of him in the gym all day, ego, all this stuff. And amazing guy, great friend, amazing human being, tons of ego. Just, I don't know how to explain it, but he is what it is. And he came to me one day and he was like, JC, I'm moving to the US. I'm leaving. And he's got a kid. He's got a fiance. He's got a family. And so my original action, awesome. When are y'all leaving? No, it's just me. I'm leaving my family behind. And if you know anything about me, I am really big into family. And I to this day, I believe I was right. I dug into him. I was like, what are you doing? And I dug into him at a personal level. Like, what kind of dad are you? What are you thinking? I mean, I was probably saying stuff. I mean, as a friend, I could say. As an employer, I probably shouldn't say. But we were friends. And I left him probably feeling like crap himself. But he basically had, his reason was, look, I want my kid to be able to be a U.S. citizen. And if I go right now, I can get my U.S. citizenship. My kid can then travel. He was justifying it, right? And I was so frustrated. I was so pissed off at his decision, right? And my leader Jose came into me. He was like, JC, it's okay. It's okay. Like, even if it is a screw up, even if he failed, that's okay. Like, how many times have you learned through failure? Like, why are you so trying to protect him or you or anything, right? He made a decision. Let's roll with it, And he was really digging into me. Nonetheless, he left the organization. Employee number 3. I was so sad. All of our original founders are still in the company, and I was super frustrated. And 5 months later, I get an email. JC, I screwed up, man. I've been broken. I'm over here. I miss my kid. I miss my family. I'm coming back. Can I have my job back? And I was just like, at first I didn't realize the extent of it, but obviously we're like, yeah, we don't even have your job, but we'll find you something. Just come back and we'll roll. he came back a completely different person, more mature, not as much ego, very focused on family. He wasn't as aggressive. Like beforehand, he was like, hey, Monte, you're screwing up here. What? Why? What do you mean? I'm not screwing up, And now he's like, cool, awesome. Right. And this was the first time in my leadership where it doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong. It's irrelevant, right? If how do we help our team learn and grow? And sometimes that's through letting them screw up and being really okay with that, right? And it kind of goes back to this like safe to fail experiment, right? Like as long as we're not going to fail, sometimes it's better to shut up and be quiet, right? And it was the first time because I'm always, as a leader, people look at you for the answers, right? Like, hey, what should I do here, Heather? Why do I need to do this, or where should I go, or what? And sometimes it's better to hit bottom. Sometimes it's better to screw it up. Sometimes it's better to miss the mark. And I think that was like a really cool experience to me of like, I completely failed at the moment, but the lesson learned there was I'm now much more open to this. It does two things. Number one, it helps my team grow faster and better and stronger. And number two, I don't have near as much stress because I'm not worried about if they're doing the right thing or wrong thing, right? It was a very simple thing, but it was very interesting. I don't know if we have time. I'll tell you another one really quick, but yes. We want to make sure our company's safe and stable. This changes over time what safe and stable mean. Forever, when we were doing our projections, really big in financials and doing projections, forever, I was always like, okay, I think we're going to have 8% growth, but we don't want to overhire. We don't want to waste money. We don't want to waste time. So let's plan on 5% growth because we definitely don't want to go. We don't want to go broke, right? We don't want to plan for 8, hire for 8, systems for 8, and then we hit 4, and then we're screwed. And forever, that was what was safe for us, that thinking. 7 months ago, I was having issues because we were projecting and we were always overhitting the projections. And what I found was today in our organization, safety is our team, not our money, right? So what would happen is that I would go, hey, we're hitting 8%. I would plan for 5. We would end up with 10. And now my team, instead of handling 30 accounts, are having to handle 40 accounts. They're being overworked. They're having to come in early. They're having to come in late. And I found, and this was just an aha moment where I was like, JC, you're such an idiot. Why didn't you see this? Now safety for us isn't going, I think we're going to hit 8. Let's prepare for 5. It's, I think we're going to hit 8. Let's prepare for 10. Right. Because we're okay. And financially, we have a savings, we have no debt, all this other stuff. And so I think a second lesson I learned that I screwed up on was understanding that what is safe for us sometimes changes. What is growth for us has different seasons as well. What type of team members we need to hire has season. When we first got started, I need worker horses. I needed people that just got it done. Now I really need more creative thinkers, right? Because we're doing something different, right? And so I think these seasons change and we'd have to be more open to, hey, this is the way we've done it, but it's going to shift. It's going to change, right? And so constantly challenging those ideologies is really important for us now, right?
Awesome. Yeah.
And now it's time for Ask Heather Anything, where her guest gets to turn the mic on her and ask Heather anything that they would like to know.
Is there any question that you have for me as the employee whisperer, the person who talks about caring leadership and leadership at heart? And is there anything that you can think of?
One thing that we're struggling with, and I think I mentioned this before we got started, I think I did, or I hinted at it in the first of it. One of the things that I'm struggling with is I'm always about balance, right? And obviously you and I get to know each other more and more. We start to be able to help each other, but I'm always balancing scalability and like honing deep into my true commitment, which is helping and serving others, right? And making sure that as we scale, we stay true to that, right? And I would much rather be 100 people and happy and healthy and serving those 100 people at a deep level than at 1,000 and unhappy. And this has been a very difficult thing for me because I feel like a douchebag. I feel like a complete, I don't know if I could say it, but like a bad word, because people write me now like, hey, JC, I want to talk to you about my marriage, or I need help with my kids, or I'm struggling as a father. Can we chat about it? And I'm going to have to cancel a meeting for this. Like there is no, like I'm booked out several weeks in advance. And that's been really tough for me to balance an individual's need versus the holistic need for me. And to the extent where some coaches say, but JC, the bigger goal is more important. Some people say the individual is more important. Some people say that, like, I mean, I get different answers from every individual, right? And it's been a real struggle for me. I'm okay with not, like, we if we don't scale anymore, I'm okay with that, but I want to make sure I do it if that's what we're meant to do. And so does that make sense what I'm saying? How do you scale passion, I guess?
So I would say, you and I are similarly positioned, I think. And so our North Star is serving others, helping others, see other people grow, changing, having a bigger vision, things like that. And I think that it's the reason why you were successful. It is the reason why people don't want to leave you now. Why fix what's not broken? So I would lean always towards, I used to be very extreme. I do lean towards compassion. I lean towards listening. I lean towards the people. But I've learned that there has to be a balance. And I'm much smaller than you, and we don't want to scale to 150. We want to be more of a niche practice. But having said that, I would drop the thing that might produce money in the moment for the person who will help me see the vision in the future, like much further down the road, make it come to life. So I would, that is my value, my North Star. I'm real clear that the people drive the bus forward. So I would cancel the thing that makes this, or reschedule it, or push it out 30 minutes, or ask for a shorter period of time. Okay, I can take like 15 minutes to help you with this thing. Or over here, can we move this 15 minutes out so I can make sure I'm with this person? But the people will always be there. And just thinking about, you said this in the very beginning, you said that it's like it's a family, like no one's ever left. Like it's about the people. I mean, and I think when you keep that as that's the thing, like that vision, that's the commitment that you talked about, right? I feel like it'll just make everything else much more clear when you're faced with those times where you got to make a choice. It's not about
here's the, because I agree with 100% of what you said. Now I think about the 700 people that want jobs at Hite. The 700 jobs that we're trying to create at Hite. I think about how many people lost their job in 2020 and how many people lost their job in a civil war not too long ago. And that's what, it throws another angle in here, right? Like what's more important, right? And and every day I go back and forth. Like every day I'm like, hey, open up my schedule. I've got to have 2 hours dedicated to our current staff. And then I'm like, crap, it's always, every day it shifts, but
I think it's going to always be a balance. I don't think there's a this or this. I think it's a this and this. And it's going to mean that you carve out maybe less time per person or less time per engagement. So instead of 30 minutes, can you get done in 15 or 20? Yeah. And then I think the other thing is, yes, there's those other 700 people that need jobs. But when we think about the Great Resignation, there are the 150 where you currently are that you haven't had a lot of turnover for, that you don't want to have a lot of turnover for. They are the ones who help your vision come to life. So I would say it's a prioritization in the moment, thinking about where we are right now in our world, So
I love that. Yeah.
That's my answer.
I like it. I like it. I'm an introvert by nature, even though I speak on stages and do all this crazy stuff. Like I'm very much an introvert. And so the idea of having 1,000 people drives me nuts, to you don't know their names. You don't know their kids. You don't know who the crap they are. They could be some terrorist and you're just like, you have no idea, that scares the crap out of me. For sure.
Yeah. Knowing your people, I think, is really good. Okay. So for those who are listening, I'm curious, they'll be curious because this is how we kind of end the show. And it's just like, what are the couple pearls of wisdom you'd leave them with? Something that, really helps them, either if they might be struggling in their leadership, they might just need a little extra wisdom. Most are coming here just to learn and hear the story and see themselves in it and learn from it. So what might be a couple pearls of wisdom you'd leave our listeners with today?
So I would say there's two things, and we hinted at both of these, throughout the talk. Number one, leaders are not always right, and that's okay. And it's good sometimes for us to be wrong and to live through that, especially when it comes to our team. And that's something I've learned the hard way because I've tried to control everything. And so I think it's good to let things go and let people fail and let people figure it out on their own. That's a big thing. And then the other thing is, especially if you're an entrepreneur, a leader being an entrepreneur, which is a little different than leading a corporation, right? this stuff's hard and it's so complex and it's so difficult and you have to do things you don't want to do. I remember having to cold call in the beginning, and I remember having to stay up late in the beginning, and you do all the stuff no one else wants to do as a leader. And if you find that commitment, it can drive you through those things. I mean, my wife, I'm very open about my commitment. My wife is involved with it, all my team. If I'm not following my commitment, people will call me out on it, right? Because it's so crucial and important and worthy. And so find that commitment worth fighting for. Find that commitment that's going to get you up, when everyone else is asleep, and that's going to keep you there, and it's going to push you to be the type of human being that you were meant to be.
I love that so much. And as I'm thinking through, those who are listening right now, if you found great value in listening to my conversation with JC, make sure that you share this far and wide when we put it out there. We are moving up the rankings on business and management podcasts. And I think it's because there's something special here. This point where the leader reveals a part of themselves where they're not perfect, which is something that most leaders don't like to do. And we talked about ego earlier. So definitely make sure you refer far and wide. And don't forget to also to write a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you might be listening, because again, those also help with the algorithms, get us up to the top so people can learn from this. And this has been great, JC. I really appreciate you and your transparency, vulnerability, and just sharing all of these creative and new ways that we can think about leadership.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here and letting me chat a little bit. And I look forward to the next time.
Thank you, everybody, too, for listening to Leadership at Heart podcast. Be well.